before the end. Newcastle deserved to win the game. They had the better chances, although in fairness to Leicester, the one or two gilt-edged opportunities didn't take them. But Newcastle had the more energy. They got the lead, and you could see that they were not giving that away. Got the second goal. Jimmy Vardy, you would expect him to get Leicester back in the game, but unfortunately, just didn't happen tonight for Leicester City. And you've got to say, no one could complain that Newcastle have won this game of football.
Still a chance in the FA Cup for Leicester this season, with that fourth round tie at Walsall to come at the end of the month. But this is where the journey ends in the Carabao Cup this season. Full time here at St James's Park in this quarter-final tie. It has finished Newcastle United 2, Leicester City 0.
Thanks, James. Yes, disappointing evening up in the northeast on Tyneside at Newcastle. It's finished 2-0 to the hosts, and they make it through to the semi-finals of the Carabao Cup. Jerry Taggart will stay with us up at St James's Park, and Matt Elliott is with me in the studio. Ewan Roberts on Zoom as we look to dissect that, and maybe look ahead as well to the game with Forest, of course, in the Premier League on Saturday. What a massive game that is, back in the league at 3 o'clock on Saturday. Let's start though with this evening. Disappointing.
Yeah, pretty much from start to finish, really. Sporadic moments of encouragement throughout the first and the second half, but by and large it was hard work, wasn't it, really? And I was probably a little bit sort of over-hopeful, over-expectant when I mentioned about my pre-match prediction, especially when there was actually no extra time anyway. But I followed Ewan's lead there and fell for it, didn't I? Cheers for that one, Sam. But yeah, I was not clutching at straws, but I was thinking, go on, at best maybe, let's be positive from a Leicester point of view. I did fear the worst a little bit because of the Boxing Day. There was quite a gulf between the teams, and that gulf was still quite sizable tonight, in all honesty. I think I looked at it, they always played like there was, I hesitate to say it, but because I don't want to be too damning or whatever, there were moments there, and it's not to say that things going forward won't change, but there was a little bit of a lack of genuine belief that they were going to get the job done tonight, I think, up against that opposition. Be different against another team, but they're quite an intimidating prospect, aren't they, Newcastle at the moment. I also mentioned as probably being a bit over ambitious in the stated, teams at two similar sort of levels despite their league positions. At this moment in time, there is a bit of a gap there as well. Obviously, Newcastle in that healthy league position, top four, but they're on a different path at the moment, aren't they? Not so long ago, it was an even matchup. You're looking forward to a very even contest. Right now, it's a little bit of a step too far for Leicester at this moment in time. Leicester will probably, hopefully, come back round. But Leicester players didn't play like they genuinely believed they were on par with that team this evening. I thought that was a little bit disappointing because Leicester have got plenty of quality players themselves, but they was outworked and outmanoeuvred from the off, really. And that lack of belief sort of showed at times with the lack of, not willingness, but we talked about the tracking back or lack of it at half time, etc. But there's also that little bit of sort of robustness in the challenge, the conviction that you're going to get onto that second ball and change the course of the game. And Newcastle had more of that, and ultimately that's was part of the reason why they got the breakthrough initially. It was, listen, Dan Burn, you'll say excellent play from a man who's ever improving. You see confidence just oozing out of him, but it was weak defending from Leicester's point of view, wasn't it? Far too easy, and it happened too many times throughout the night.
Yeah, Ewan, what did you make of the 90 minutes? Obviously, bitterly disappointing. I'm sure you agree with everything that Matt has said.
Absolutely, including the extra time, Matt. I do apologise for that, mate. You look at Newcastle. They're flying high on confidence. They've got a style of play. They've all bought into what Eddie Howe's brought to the club. There's a different feel about Newcastle these days since the takeover. The club's fully united. You let any team have 20 shots on goal, 9 of those on target, you're going to lose more than you can win. You know, you look at Newcastle's home form. Well, we were maybe hoping for a little miracle for Leicester to go up there, because they haven't lost at home this season. They've only lost twice at St James's Park since last January. That's 9 clean sheets now for Nick Pope in 12 home games in all competitions at St James's Park. And they just seem to have more ideas, better movement, more quality, more energy about their play. You know, to get through, you need a little bit of luck. Newcastle, they could have won. They've won this game by 1-0. Dan, it could have been 3 at half time. They could have scored 3 in the opening 8 minutes of the second half before Dan Burn scored the opening goal. And I get it. Had Jamie Vardy scored that chance on 73 minutes, it could have been a really uncomfortable last 15, 20 minutes for the home side. But that's the way it's going since the restart for Leicester. That's 4 defeats in 5 now since the World Cup finished. They've got into the same rut as they were at the start of the season. And that needs to end quickly. You know, the World Cup break couldn't have come at a worse time for Leicester. They were full of confidence. They were playing well. They were keeping clean sheets. And all of a sudden, since the start of the second half of the season, if you like, they've gone back to they just lack something, whether it's belief, whether it's confidence, I don't know. But they need to get that back ASAP, because they've got some tough games coming up. They've got to get the disappointment of this defeat out the way, because they've got a massive game coming up on Saturday now.
Well, what's your assessment, Jerry, after that?
Down. It's disappointing, isn't it? You knew what was coming. We've seen it on Boxing Day. Leicester should have been down. A goal down within a minute or two, was it? Slow start again. Never really get into the game. Continually want to play this style of football out from the back. It's just not working at the minute for them for whatever reason. And when they get into forward areas, I don't think there's the self-belief in enough players. You know, you've seen with a Patson Daka where he's tried to square it. Why doesn't he have a shot? So I think there's a lack of confidence, a lack of belief to some degree. I might be totally wrong, but you know, I'm sitting here and I'm at a game. It's difficult to analyse a game when you're sat at home like Ian is, or watched it on the telly. But when you're actually here and you can, you know, you sort of soak it all up and breathe it all in, then you get for me anyway, you get a better perspective on how a game of football is going and how it's played. And you know, the difference between both the teams tonight was one massive thing was without the ball. Newcastle without the ball were excellent. If you look at one of the goals and one other big chance, I think they both come from throw-ins. Throw-ins done inside Newcastle's own half. Now, I don't know what's going on or whether or not they don't understand about screening, but you know, so there's issues there, and there's players aren't, you know, doing what they would normally do. I don't know why, but I can only tell you what I see on a football pitch when I'm actually at a game, and for me, that was the difference between both teams tonight.
And Ewan's told us about the stats, really, how good Newcastle have been at home, not just this season, but really in the past calendar year. Well, obviously last calendar year, of course, they've been fantastic at home, and you probably saw firsthand, Jerry, why that's been the case this season.
Yeah, they're a well-oiled machine. You know, they're not. You know, you look at the keeper. The keeper doesn't play it from the back. He just booms it forward, and probably with good reason, because they've got some, you know, big players in the team, and so they play football. They play a style of football that suits the players that they have in their team. But the one thing that they have is hard work and cohesion with that hard work. And yes, you look at Joel Linton and Almiron. You know, those two players in particular have turned their careers completely on its head. You know, Joe Linton, came in as a centre forward, plays a midfield role now, and does an excellent job. Almiron, a player who was in and out of the team and was struggling for consistency, is now their go-to man. But everybody to a man is all pulling in the right direction, and that's the main difference that I see. From Newcastle under Eddie Howe, and say Newcastle under Steve Bruce, something like that there. So yeah, big turnaround for Newcastle. And Leicester at the minute are just stumbling, and they just couldn't get the grips on Newcastle. Yet again, that's twice now in quick succession that they've just struggled. And so, hard work brings results, and that's what you're seeing with Newcastle, and that's why they haven't lost at home, because they work hard for each other.
Well, and again, Ewan, that's the really frustrating thing. Joe was talking about that everyone pulling together and turning things around. Leicester had done that this season already. One win in the first 7. They've turned it around. They were fantastic before the World Cup. Obviously, we can't keep banging on about the fact that there was the break. It was the break for everyone. Everyone knew it was coming, but the momentum was there before the break. It clearly isn't now.
Yeah, they've got to get back to those good habits that they were all doing, not individually and as a team, before the World Cup breakdown. And you're right, we can't keep banging on about the 6-7 weeks for the World Cup to go ahead, because it was the same for every side. But for one reason or another, it's been a really slow start to the second half of the season. Yeah, it's been a tough start. Home game against Newcastle, one of the best teams in the Premier League, in a away fixture. Anfield, never an easy place to go. But there's no hiding the fact, Leicester have scored 2 goals in the 5 games. The one clean sheet that came at Gillingham, one of those 2 goals was the winner against Gillingham. It's not quite happened for them, and somehow they've got to sit in that dressing room and thrash things out, and, as I say, get back to the good habits that they were all doing collectively, that won 4 out of their last 5 games before the World Cup break. Because, as I said, they've got some tough fixtures coming up. And I think they've got an away game at Arsenal, or a home game against Arsenal. They go to Old Trafford. Fixtures come thick and fast. And at the minute, you just get the sense that the team's in a bit of a rut. There's a lack of cohesion. There's a lack of confidence. And that's why, at the minute, they're losing football games.
Was there anyone in particular, Jerry, on the pitch from a Leicester point of view that stood out for you tonight?
Danny Ward, I think, kept Leicester in the game on a couple of occasions with some good saves. I thought Patson Daka worked hard, helped get Leicester into some really good positions this evening. Other than that, Dan, I'm struggling. I really am. So, yeah.
No, that's enough, Jerry. Thank you.
He's being kind, mentioned too, to be honest, haven't he?
Yeah. Well, Danny Ward, to be fair, made some really good saves, didn't he?
Yeah, no, Danny Ward was brought into too much action, wasn't he? But he did more work than he wanted to. But yeah, a few decent saves. Other than that, exactly that just shows you what sort of night it was. And I mean, also you need to sort of look at, say, about the run before the World Cup. But I mean, the standard of opposition wasn't quite what it has been since. Newcastle twice, Liverpool away. Okay, they weren't at the best. But Fulham was a disappointment, but their confidence had been eroded a little bit. So they've got some work to do to rally themselves. But like they did before against Nottingham Forest, ideal opposition. Yeah. They're up again Saturday, but they're going to be put under pressure again there, aren't there? No easy fixtures coming their way.
Well, what I would say, Leicester have done it already this season. They've got the know-how to do that, to turn things around. They've done it once already.
I think they've got the capability. I just think tonight, up against that opposition, that team, it's almost like Newcastle have got the number over them. Number on them. Or, just from a physical point of view, and sort of mentally aggressive, aren't they? And all the things that Jerry said about them, spot on. It just seemed like that genuine belief wasn't there. That there'd be more belief on Saturday. They'll have to be prepared, because they know what is capable at that ground. It happened not so long ago. But also when they're on song, Forest are a more beatable side than Newcastle, aren't they? So they can have that bit more belief going into the game. But listen, things don't come to you easy, but they've shown they don't before. I've got every confidence that they will turn it round to some degree or another at the very least.
Yeah, it's a huge game, that one. Simple as that, Jerry, isn't it, on Saturday away at Forest?
So for more than, for all the reasons, more than one reason, it's as simple as that. And I think, Leicester are missing some quality players, who are on the injury list. I don't think that's helping their cause. Again, from what I'm seeing live at a game, then there is some quality issues in the teams that are starting in regards to, converting the chances. So fingers crossed that sooner rather than later we can get some of those quality players back.
Well, that has been an issue, Joe, and you never obviously want to blame injuries, do you?
No.
But you look at the injury list for Leicester, it's got so many important key players on it.
No, absolutely. And you're right, and you're hoping, and you're wishing that the players, Ozzy Perce has had a run in the team now, sort of playing in that Madison where he's looked comfortable in the past, Ozzy, but at the minute he just sort of lacks that. I don't know what he's lacking at the minute, but he's lacking something. And I'm not saying that they're creating chances, but the conversion rate is not the same as what it was before the break, and that goes for the same of players like Harvey Barnes, who before the break was on fire, couldn't stop scoring, and then come back, and there's just something missing from the team. And yes, obviously getting beat in the league, losing 3 on the bench in the league doesn't help your confidence, that is. But I think the quicker we get some players back, then the confidence will start to grow again. The self-belief will start to grow again. And I know what you're saying, you can't rely on injured players. The squad is a squad. That's what Brendan Rodgers has available to him, but at the minute it just seems to be something missing. I can't put my finger on it.
When things are struggling in front of goal, and obviously you'll have gone through patches in your career where you may have gone 5 games without a goal, and your confidence does hit rock bottom. How do you recover from that? Do you literally have 100 shots in training after everyone else has gone home? What is it that you do? How do you get that confidence back?
You keep going in the same areas, Dan. You keep making the same runs. You don't go hiding. You don't sort of not go into certain areas in the penalty box just in case the ball might fall for you or fall to you and you miss that chance. You've got to be brave. You've got to be. You have confidence in your own ability, and you've got to work hard. You can do your sessions. You can do your finishing drills that every forward will do after every training session. But you can't sort of replicate what happens in a game, and it's just going in the right areas, making the right runs, hoping that you're going to get the service to bring this barren run to an end, and that's the only way you can do it. I look at Patson Daka tonight, and he had that one opportunity in the first half, and I do think he passed it the responsibility. I really, really do.
Is that confidence, Ewan? Is that confidence?
I think it is, Dan. I think it is. I told you that the last time he scored was Bournemouth away on the 8th of October. It's a long time. I think that's 9 Premier League games he's gone without a goal. I know he hasn't started every game, and it can only be a confidence thing, which surprised me with Paxson, because he is a finisher. That's his game. He comes alive in the penalty box. That's the sort of chance he would normally thrive at. But when you're in this lean spell, you're afraid to miss. It's that simple. And he tried to square it to Harvey Barnes, where 9 times out of 10 are confident. Patson Daka puts his foot through the ball, and at least hits the target. At least makes the goalkeeper work. And that's the way it's going for him at the minute. And it's the same for Jamie Vardy. Jamie can't buy a goal at the minute. He's only got the 1 goal in the Premier League. I mean, the chance that Jamie gets, that's bread and butter for him. 999 times out of 1,000, he puts that in the back of the net. But that's the way it's going for him at the minute. He's just not getting the goals that Jamie Vardy would do, and it is a bit of a headache for Brendan Rodgers.
Yeah, that chance almost summed up Leicester since the restart, basically.
Yeah, it was a shocker, to be fair. And even Jamie couldn't believe it himself, could he? He's not having an easy time in front of goal. It's very unlike him, really. You talk about his maturing age and perhaps a decline in his sharpness and pace, etc. But he still have that eye for a goal, etc. He still have that finishing capabilities, and he's gone through little periods where it hasn't gone his way, and he's got the strength of character to come through it. But this one's going on a little bit for him, isn't it? I mean, he's not playing as regularly as he would have done so previously, or even as he would like now. But doesn't really excuse that sort of miss tonight. As he was.
Was it his first touch?
Pretty much, I think, wasn't it? I couldn't remember anything before. So okay,
that's an excuse.
Yeah, that's a factor, maybe. Pace of the game, etc. And adjusting yourself. But I mean, he was scratching his head on the field of play, wasn't he? Thinking, oh, how's that happened? The way it's going. Who knows? Could have sparked a comeback. Unlikely, but not beyond possibility, was it? There, that was the opportunity. Once that happened, like you say, it did sum things up a little bit. But the right team won tonight, unfortunately, and you could see that from the off, couldn't you?
Yeah, that's probably another frustration, Jerry. Of course, you cast your mind back to that game a week ago against Fulham. The chances that were squandered that evening, with 20 minutes to go, you equalise. Leicester probably go on and win it. You never know tonight. They score a goal with 10 minutes to go, and there's a fear amongst the crowd.
Yeah, that's what goals change games. And I'm not saying the game was on a knife edge, but from a team going in being in control of a game to then conceding, then that sort of switches the mindset, and that control shifts from one team to the other, or potentially can. So yeah, we're all bewildered how Jimmy missed it, but as I said, even the great Jimmy Vardy misses chances like that when you would expect him to to bury that and get Leicester back in the game. And to be fair, Leicester got in behind Newcastle on a couple of occasions in that second half when Brendan made the changes, but yet again just could not convert the chances that were a bit like Fulham, let's put it, but obviously there was a lot more chances against Fulham than there was tonight.
How important is that game, Ewan, on Saturday?
Well, you need to bring this disappointing run to an end. I know tonight's a League Cup game, but if you look at the three defeats, Fulham, Liverpool, Newcastle, you need to bring a stop to that ASAP. I mean, both Leicester 13, Forest 15, both got 17 points after 18 games. I mean, if you think Newcastle's a tough place to go, and it is, I mean, the City Ground, that's going to be a hostile place on Saturday, local derby. We all remember what happened there in the FA Cup last season. And if you look at Forest this season, away from home, they've not been brilliant. Yeah, they got that good win at Southampton last time round, winning 1-0. But they've been decent at the City Ground, to be fair. They haven't lost in their last 5 there. 12 of their 17 points have come from home. So it's going to be a test. They'll be right up for this game. They will have watched this game tonight. They'll know what to expect. And, Steve Cooper, they had a bad weekend at Blackpool where, I mean, I think they're taking a bit of stick for flying up to Blackpool from the Midlands and one thing or another. But he'll want a response. He rested a good few of his players. They'll come back fresh. It's going to be a tough test, and it really, really is. But one, you would hope that the Leicester lads will be looking forward to, because as I say, it's a massive game, local derby, Forest v Leicester. They're always big occasions. They're always big games. Not an easy place to go. So hopefully bring it on, and Leicester can get back to winning ways.
Final point can go to you, Matt. Obviously, they've got Wolves tomorrow in the AFL Cup, so Leicester have got an extra day. I guess that adds in a little bit. You're going, of course, on Saturday. Again, can't be underlined how important that one is.
No, very much so. That will work slightly in Leicester's favour, you would imagine. Like Eddie Howe, I think Steve Cooper will probably go pretty strong. It's a great opportunity for the club to progress to semi-finals of a competition. still with it. Yeah, there's a quick turnaround then, isn't it? Wednesday to the Saturday, but depending on the result, on the back of that, if they get a result tomorrow, then they're flying into the weekend, aren't they? A different scenario if it goes against them. But having said that, Forest they're going to be a challenge, aren't they? Because I know they were weak on the night and they were poor showing against here at the King Power against Leicester. Leicester were in fine form that night. But now they're starting to sort of embrace and enjoy the Premier League a little bit, and they're getting a little bit more settled. Their supporters will be expectant, so will Leicester's, and they'll be hoping for something different for the last time that they went to that ground. So, there's a little bit of, you could say, well, there is pressure for both teams, but probably more so on Leicester. And it's a test of character for them. And they've shown that character previously, but it needs to come to the surface again pretty sharp.
Yeah, as I mentioned there, Matt Elliott will be going on Saturday to the City Ground. You can join us as ever on Matchday Live on Saturday from 2 p.m. Of course, it's a 3 o'clock kickoff against Nottingham Forest. Steve Walsh and Jerry Taggart, as well as Matt, of course, will be the guests on Matchday Live for that one, which you can, of course, catch on LCFC TV. There's plenty more to come, as well as that Matchday Live over the coming days. After that, there'll be extra time on the Monday evening. You can catch that one again. It'll be the regular guests where Matt Elliott doesn't have to do his predictions this weekend. And finally, there's a new podcast to listen to with Steve Guppy. That's Matt and Jerry speaking to Steve. That's a fantastic watch, a fantastic listen. Either you get it on your podcasts or you can watch it on YouTube. Big thanks to Ewan Roberts, to Matt Elliott. Safe travels, Jerry, back from Newcastle this evening. Safe travels, of course, to the squad and to all the fans that travelled up there on a very disappointing evening where it finished Newcastle 2, Leicester 0.